Hello. Today I am going to read the next section in Napoleon and Josephine. I am on page 125. We are on section Child, I don't know, the Honeymoon, or Child, part 5, Child. So, follow along, chapter 2. The delusion slowly dawned upon Napoleon, even in his delirium. May have been a result of an inadvertent or careless word from General Murat or General Leclerc. Upon their return from Josephina's shrine, some word about her parasocial will, her radiance and exuberance at the time when he had thought her ailing and suffering. Much had been made in history books of that false pregnancy, whether it was a fact or an honest mistake on her part or an outright invention. When biographers deride the idea that she felt life as, to judge by Napoleon's letters she had told him only 2 months after the wedding, they evidently chose to forget that the March wedding date was no inclination of the beginning of their intimacy. If Josephina was truthful in mentioning these symptoms, the pregnancy would have been in an advanced stage, and a miscarriage, if there was one, sufficiently serious to have warranted the 3 doctors in attendance. But the episode remains forever in the realm of conjecture and controversial. See. Napoleon's letter of June 26 did not reach Paris until after Josephina's departure. By General Bonaparte's orders, she was conveyed under armed and mounted guard with his special courier, Moustache, detailed to ride ahead to range for horses at every relay station. As the 3 carriages caravan rolled south to the first halt at Flag and Flower beckoned lines, and then veered east towards the Mont Cenis pass, the journey would have been very gay, says fellow traveler Hamelin, for Junot would have kept us laughing with his sallies of robust military riff. Had not that little Charles taken to jealousy, sulking whenever another enjoyed the flavor he sought to monopolize. Lord Junot hints that Josephina's favor was unwelcomed and embarrassing to a loyal Junot, and that as a tactical diversion he affected an interest in Louise Comporte, her sombre of a maid, or such in this version of the story that Louis heard later from her husband. Junot, great, hulking, swaggering officer that he was, may have been the type of man who flatters himself that every woman is flirting with him, or Josephina may have been the type of woman who created that impression on every man upon whom she turned her gaze. That languorous look of hers, the arched lid, and the slightly curling, long, dark lashes, seductively veiling the dark blue eyes, which may have been the result less of intention than of ocular confirmation. What is certain is that on Brunette's part, an ill will developed which would melodramatically erupt 2 years later in Europe. Hamilton's tongue and pen wagged about the pairing off at the overnight stopping places along the road. Charles with Josephina, Brunette with Madame Louise, Joseph Bonaparte off to a room by himself, still smarting from the painful souvenir of his indescribable Paris love affairs. It is difficult to credit Hamlin's scandal-mongering, even if Josephina was so reckless as to flaunt her relations with Charles in the face of her husband's brother. Even if she so dared to brave her husband's wrath, surely Charles must have misgivings about such an affront to his noticeably jealous and all-powerful commander-in-chief. Once that commander-in-chief knew as a certainty that his wife was on her way, he knew fresh torture in the thought that he might not be on hand to greet her when she reached Milan. Called to Florence and to Bologna to treat the embassies of the Pope. He arranged with General Lespinacy to rush off as a courier to me at the moment my wife arrived, and he dispatched General Marmont with an honor guard to Turin, where the court of Sardinia gave her a souvenir's welcome. Marmont reported. On July 13th, General Bonaparte rushed back from Ravenna in time to give her lovers welcome to Milan. To the colonized Palazzo Serbelloni, which he had chosen as their residence, a palace described by Arnaud as one of the most magnificent in Milan, a place in Cockney, a pile of rosy, crystal-speckled granite that sparkled in the sun like sugar candy. In its great loggia, Colonel Granat and Joseph Bonaparte, who descended from the carriage after Josephina, stood patiently waiting until Napoleon should release her from his embrace long enough to turn and greet them. There in Milan, with her husband at last, Josephina gave herself to him, if not out of love, then out of her warmth, unflaring sympathy, her eagerness to please, to try to meet his burning need of her. Once reunited with his wife at Milan, General Marmont observes, General Bonaparte was supremely happy, for he lived then solely for her. And so it was for a long time a love so true, so pure, so exclusive, had never possessed the heart of a man. And that man, of so superior an order, so little time he had to enjoy the happiness of that reunion. 40 hours before, he must return to direct the assault on Manichav, and even those 40 hours not interrupted on July 14th, Beagle Day, The city honored Madame Bonaparte with a gala performance at La Scriella, followed by a ball at which all the notables of Lombardy were presented to her. It served as well as an occasion for her to present her prodigy Hamelin to Bonaparte, and perhaps Lieutenant Charles, unless he had already departed for headquarters at Veronica or Verona. By July 15th, Napoleon was back at the front battle, writing to Josephine from Marmilio that night. Thank you, my darling, for your letter. It filled my heart with joy, and I am grateful to you for going to the trouble of sending me news. You should be feeling better today. I have been sad every moment since our parting. I know no happiness save when I am with you. I think insensibly of your kisses, your tears, your teasing jealousy. The charms of my incomparable Josephina kindle a flame that burns unceasingly in my heart, through my senses. When shall I ever be free of anxiety and responsibility, free to spend all my time with you, with nothing to do but to love you, nothing to think of but how to tell you of my love, how to prove it to you? A few days ago I thought I loved you, but now, since I have seen you again, I love you 1,000 times more. Every day since I met you, I loved you more, just to disprove la Bruyere's minimum. Love comes in a lightning flash. Ah, I implore you, let me see that you have faults. Be less beautiful, less gracious, less kind, less tender. Above all, never be jealous, never weep. Your tears rob me of my reason, set my blood aflame. Take your rest, gain back your strength and your health. Come quickly to join me, so that before we die, we can say, we have had this many joyous hours together. Thousands of kisses, even one even for fortune, wicked beast that he is. All the night of July 17th he had spent under arms before the walls of flaming Mantua, a horrible if impressive spectacle. But he found time to write her the next morning to describe a pilgrimage he had made, fancying it would hold literally and romantic significance to her as to him. The Virgin's village on the lake shore, in the light of the silvery moon, and thinking of my Josephina at every moment. Also to forward a letter to her from Eugene, and to ask her to assure her darling children that he loved them as if they were his own. My heart is incapable of distinguishing between what is mine and what is thine, for having opened other letters addressed from her to Paris. The intrepid warrior confessed to such a trepidation that he had been tempted to reseal them. But thine, that would be shameful. I wish you would give me the exempt permission for the future, though. If you were angry, I apologize. I swear that it was not out of jealousy. I have too lofty an opinion of that for that, my darling. My darling, for that. 1,000 kisses, as fiery as my heart, as pure and cold as thine. A courtier returning from Milan reports that you have told him you had no order, no letter, no message to send me. Shame on you, you wicked, ugly, cruel tyrant, you pretty little monster. You laugh at my threats and at my folly. My hair is going berserk. It's kind of, I don't know what's going on. There. Yeah. What am I? When you laugh at my threats and my follies. Oh, if only I could only imprison you, shut you up in my heart. When can you come? When can you come to join me? On July 1st, he was still waiting for that letter from her, but heading for the northern border to check on a concentration of Australian forces that posed a threat from the Alps. He supposed she was still sleeping at the early hour of which he wrote, and I not there beside you to breathe in your breath, to contemplate your beauty, to overwhelm you with caress. Separated from you, the nights are wearisome, mournful, long. When I am with you, my only regret is that the nights are not eternal. By this time, you are well acquainted with Milan. Perhaps you even have found that lover you were seeking. The thought of such a thing never ceases to but no. Let me think too well of myself for such a possibility. I hope that you said that you are feeling completely well by now, and that you can come to stay with me at headquarters, never to part from me again. Are you not the life of my life, the heart of my heart? I think not. Alas, my beautiful and my good, my unalterably and incomparable, utterly divine Josephina, 1,000 impassive kisses everywhere, everywhere. On the 22nd of July, 2 letters went off by corridor to bring her word that she should come on the 25th of the southern shore of Lake Garda to Barcelona, where the tenderest of lovers would await her. I count the days until then, and well known which of us will be the promptest at the rendezvous. Your letters are cold. The warmth of your heart is not for me, Putty. I'm only your husband. Another must be your lover. After all, that's the fashionable way of the world. Let the man beware who would claim your love. But here I am, being jealous again. Good God, I don't know what I am. The only thing I know is that without you there is no happiness, no life for me. The 7th Brezza, then, is it agreed? Agreed, but not agreeable to Josephina. As is clear from her letter to her darling little Teresa, Italian, dated July 23rd, just before her departure from Milan. The trip here was the most arduous and uncomfortable imaginable. I was 18 days on the road and entered the carriage with fever and a pain on my side. The fever had subsided, but the pain persists. I am bored to death here. In the midst of all superfeds given in my honor, I long constantly for my friends at Charlotte, the Talon, and my friend at Luxembourg, Barth. My husband doesn't love me. He worships me. I am afraid he will go mad with love. I have seen him only for a moment. He is involved in the siege of Mantua. I leave tomorrow night to go to Brescia. This will bring me close to headquarters. That is to say, closer to Verona, where presumably Charles was stationed, if that's what she meant to say. She took Louise Component and Hamelin with her on the 24th. A maid was indispensable to Madame Bonaparte, even at the front line, and Hamilton's presence would serve as a reminder to Bonaparte that she had promised that protege an army post. Her tenderest of lovers were awaiting her at Versailles, and on July 29th they went on east together to Verona. There that very afternoon, General and Madame Bonaparte and Hamilton, taking their afternoon coffee on the balcony of a palace overlooking the Geese River and the foothills of the Alps to the north, espied curious specks of white moving towards the city. White uniforms. Australian troops in a sudden descend through the passes after outflanking the northernmost French outpost. General Bonaparte's first move was to rush Josephine to safety. Milan and Versailles were out of the question, for as he correctly reasoned, Field Marshal von Worcester would have sent another column down the western shore of Lake Garda. Bonaparte therefore chose walled and fortified Pesarina, halfway between Verona and Brasilia, at the southernmost tip of the lake, as the safest place in the emergency. But when Josephine's carriage jolted into Pastorita, the panicky commanding officer, Gulliman, I don't know how to pronounce that, Gulliman urged her to seek refuge elsewhere. He did not choose to answer her safely with the invaders at the gate, and their gunboats patrolling the lake shore. Madame Bonaparte displayed admirable presence of mind in rejecting General Gulliman's suggestion. She had confidence in her own general, and despite the chatter of muskets and the flicker of enemy bivouac fires in the night, insisted on staying where he had sent her until further word should come from him. She slept in her clothes, but also in the certainty that, though it might require the entire French army in Italy, General Bonaparte would fight his way through the Australian encirclement to Pestorica and to her. When morning came, to not most redoubtable of all, Napoleon's redoubtables galloped in through the last open gate of the town with a company of dragoons to escort her to her husband's at Casa Novella, where this new command post had been established during the night. Within a few first miles, however, as her carriage hustled west along the Garda shore, it came under fire from an Australian patrol boat. Two of the carriage horses fell between the traces. One of the extraordinary dragoons tumbled dead from his mount. Junot unceremoniously shoved Josephina, Louis Compote, and Hamilton, or not Hamilton, Hamlin out the landslide door of the coach, onto their knees in the ditch beyond the road, and whipped the 4 remaining horses to make them dash on with the empty carriage, and so divert the patrol's boat fire. Herding his trio of civilians along the ditch and out of range, Junot finally commanded a peasant cart to convey them the rest of the way. I guess that's good. The peasant cart is run by a peasant, like a person is actually, rolling the cart. Yeah. This was Josephina's second baptism by fire, as unwelcome as the first, 6 years previously in the tavern at Fort Royal in Martinque. She clung to her courage, her composure, even while they learned through the Zenzia's scene of the previous night's hottest fighting, littered with the corpses of men and of horses, redundant with the stench of death and powder, only to dissolve into tears in her husband's arms when he snatched her from the cart at Castelnuovo. Warmser shall pay dearly for your tears, General Bonaparte promised, and he kept the promise before the autumn was out. At the moment, however, the French were on the defensive and fighting against odds that would have been considered insuperable by any commander save Napoleon. At the moment, Brussels had been lost, and with it access to Milan. Bonaparte had no choice but to send his wife and her party along the road to the south, detouring past belinguised Mantua through Parma to Florence, where the Grand Duke of Tuscany, who had already signed a peace treaty with General Bonaparte, showed proper courtesy to his wife, just in case the tide of battle should turn back again in favor of her husband. She continued on as far as the west coast of Leghorn before turning back north once more to Brussels. On receipt of a message delivered by Mustache, announcing sensational French victories southeast of the city at Catalonia and Lonato. When we reached Brussels, her traveling companion Hamlin wrote, "We did not find the general as we had expected, but instead a letter to advise that he was awaiting us at Cremona. Despite my urges to follow him there, Madame Bonaparte insisted on spending the night in Brussels, pleading that it was getting late and she was too exhausted to travel further. She took the apartment General Bonaparte maintained in the town, and I that of his aide-de-camp. 'Go to your room,' she said to me. 'I am going to bed, and I shall order a table placed beside it, and we can dine together.' When I came downstairs again, I saw that 3 covers had been laid on the table, and inquired to the third. 'Is that poor child?' she replied. 'He is just returning from a mission, and happened to stop at Brussels, where he heard of my arrival. That moment Charles came in, and we 3 had dinner together. The meal soon over, we were both on our way out of her apartment. When we just reached the door, a languishing voice was to be heard recalling Charles. I continued on my way, and it was not until I made ready to undress I realized I had left my hat and sidearms in the sitting room. And I believe sidearms are what are sidearms? Alright. So I guess that's like a weapon, like a dagger, something. Okay. Never mind. In the sitting room that preceded her bedchamber. I wanted to retrieve them, but the grandiose sentry at her door told me that no one was permitted to enter. Who gave you that order? Madame Bonaparte's maid. Then it was, it was I understood that the heroine of Passerina had reverted to type, had become once again the frivolous and giddy Parisian. A report in which Hamelin showed himself grossly ungrateful, for within the next few days at Cremona, he was handsomely rewarded for his escort duty to the general wife by an appointment as national agent for collection of reparations in conquered territories around Verona. A literally golden opportunity, though he muffled it, and never forgave the Bonapartes for his own imprudence. As for Josephine, at the end of that frantic 3-week carriage flight, after carrying some 350 miles across miserable roads in and out of battle zones, up and down north and central Italy, she would have shown superhuman control. She had resisted the temptation to gasp out a breathless, "I told you so. I told you a theater of war was no place for a woman," to which Napoleon must have agreed, for he would never again allow her to enter one, not even when the time came when she was pleased to do so. He escorted her back safely to Milan on August 24th, and then turned around on the 27th to drive the northern Australian line back to the Alps in order to concentrate his forces on the assault of Mantua. He was haunted by the sight of Josephine at the party. Sad, upset, sick. She herself dated the onset of her migraine headaches from that period, and she was in no happy mood when she wrote from Milan to Aunt Edme Venison Barnhartness on September 4th. Monsieur Prince Sarabelli will bring you this letter and tell you something in the way in which I have been welcomed to Italy. I am flattered wherever I go. All the princes of Italy have entertained in my honor. Even the Grand Duke of Tuscany, brother of the Emperor Francis of Austria. Very well then. I would rather be a simple private civilian in France. I care nothing about the honors paid me in this country, and I am terribly poor. It is true, of course, that my poor health constitutes to my melancholy. I'm often in, indisposed. If good fortune could ensure good health, I would be feeling fine. I have the most amiable husband it would be possible to find. My wishes are granted before I have time to voice them. My desires are his desires. My will his law. He spends his day in adoration before me as if I were a divine, divinity. No one could be a better husband. Monsieur Salabelli will tell you how I am loved. He is bringing the children gifts from Bonaparte, a handsome enameled repeater watch set in fine pearls for Worsted, a gold one for Eugene. Love my children, writes them often, I embrace my dear papa, and you, my dear aunt. I will try to send you the money you have requested at my very first opportunity. The prince carried a letter to for Horse Tent, too, urging her to write often to her mother. Your letters, and those of your brother, console me in my separation from my previous children. And a letter for Barris, and one of Cherie Petit, Teresa Talon. Only General Bonaparte was left to complain of Josephina's readiness as a correspondent. No letters from you, which seriously disturbed me, although I hear that you have been well enough to take a drive to Lake Como recently. On the 17th of September, he still received no word. I write so often, you so seldom. Oh, I write so often, you so seldom. It's it's propitious to deceive a poor husband, a tender lover. He lose his rights just because he is far away, burdened down with responsibility, with fatigue and anxiety. Without his Josephina, without the assurance of her love, what remains to him on earth? Yesterday was a bloody business, but the enemy was beaten, and we occupied the suburbs of Mantua. Adieu, Josephina, and take care. One of these fine nights, your doors will come crashing open, and I'll be there, your jealous lover. There I'll be in your arms. I could not It could not have been Charles. He would have found with her in Milan, not Charles, who had escorted her on that tour of Lake Como, because Charles had himself been involved in that bloody business at Mantua on the 16th, as is established by a Salvation, a special mention to the Directory signed by none other than General Bonaparte. On the 17th, Charles and Sokolowski assistants to the adjutant general staff, acquitted themselves superbly in this action. Mantua had not yet been reduced, but with this situation under control, General Bonaparte could come into Milan and on September 19th for a 3-week stay with Josephina. His forces already outnumbered. He urged the Directory to send him reinforcements to meet those that would surely be coming from from Australia, but letter upon letter proving availing. Relentless, pacing like a lion, he would leave his letter room writing, his desks, maps, and conferences to dash into Josephina's room, to refresh himself with the sight and sound and touch of her. He would burst into the room, says Hamlin, who was often a guest in the Bonaparte private apartments. Without a word to me, he would stride over to Madame Bonaparte and began to play with her like a child, teasing her until he made her cry, caressing her so boldly, so heartily, that I considered it best to walk away to the window and pretend to be checking on the weather. He was passionately in love with his wife, for as for her, she was never in love with him, for the reason that she was already in love with someone else. I knew what to expect from Sir Charles, and felt positively uncomfortable at the thought of this young general already covered with the glory which reflected on his wife, in a losing competition with a little fellow who had nothing to recommend him except a pretty face and a hairdresser's elegance. And that is chapter 2 of Charles. So we're getting a little bit steamy over here, but yep. If you want to click, click subscribe, click thumbs up if you like this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.